Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Ajnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत श्री राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जयतां सुरतोर्पंगो मम मंद मतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्भोजौ राधा मदन मोहनौ दिव्याद्वृन्दारण्य कल्पद्रुमदौ श्रीमद् रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधा श्रील गोविंद देवौ प्रेष्ठालिभि सेव्यमानो स्मरामि श्रीमन् रासरसारंभि वंशी वटतटस्थितः कर्षन् वेणुस्वनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथस्त्रियस्तुना तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत गोविंद देवो भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंगायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्री गुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्यम ईश्वरं गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः आनंद लीलामय विग्रहाय हेमाव दिव्य छवि सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय श्रीमन् चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते नित्यानंदमहं नौमि सर्वानंदकरं परं हरिनाम प्रदं देवम् अवधूत शिरोमणि श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय श्री नित्यानंद राम की जय हरे कृष्णा thank you all your devotees for very kindly joining we are continuing our reading of the Krishna book from chapter 11 onwards. This is the section where Krishna is now killing Vatsasur and Bakasur and so many other demons. So let us continue our discussion. One day, all the cowherd boys went to the bank of river Jamuna to water their calves. When the calves drank water from the Yamuna, the boys also drank. After drinking, when they were sitting on the bank of the river, they saw a huge animal which looked something like a heron and was as big as a hill. Its top was as strong as a thunderbolt. When they saw that unusual animal, they became afraid of it. The name of this beast was Bakasur, and he was a friend of Kamsa's. He appeared on the scene suddenly and immediately attacked Krishna with his pointed, sharp beak and quickly swallowed him up. When Krishna was thus swallowed, all the boys headed by Balaram became almost breathless as if they had died. But when the Bakasur demon was swallowing up Krishna, he felt a burning, fiery sensation in his throat. This was due to the glowing effulgence of Krishna. The demon quickly threw Krishna up and tried to kill him by pinching him with his beak. Bakasur did not know that although Krishna was playing the part of a child of Nanda Maharaj, he was still the original father of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe. Maya Yashoda's child, who is the reservoir of pleasure for the demigods and who is the maintainer of his saintly persons, caught hold of the great gigantic heron by the two halves of his beak, and before his cowherd boyfriends bifurcated his mouth, just as a child very easily splits a blade of grass. From the sky, the denizens of the heavenly planet showered flowers like the Mallika, the most fragrant of all flowers, as a token of their congratulations. Accompanying the showers of flowers was a vibration of bugles, drums, and conch shells. When the boys saw the showering of flowers and heard the celestial sounds, they were struck with wonder. And when they saw Krishna freed from the mouth of the great demon Bakasura, all of them, including Balaram, were so pleased that it seemed as if they had regained their very source of life. As soon as they saw Krishna coming towards them, they one after another embraced the son of Nanda and held him to their chests. After this, they assembled all the calves under their charge and began to return home. When they arrived home, they spoke of the wonderful activities of the son of Nanda. When the gopis and cowherd men all heard the story from the boys, they felt great happiness because naturally they loved Krishna, and by hearing about his glories and victorious activities, they became still more affectionate towards him. Thinking the child Krishna had been saved from the mouth of death, they looked upon his face with great love and affection. They were full of anxiety and could not turn their faces from the vision of Krishna. The gopis and the men began to converse among themselves about how wonderful it was that child Krishna had been attacked in so many ways and so many times by so many demons, and yet the demons themselves had been killed and Krishna had remained uninjured. They continued to converse among themselves as to how so many great demons in such fierce bodies had attacked Krishna to kill him, but by the grace of Hari, had not been able to cause even a slight injury. Rather, they had died like small flies in a fire. Thus, they remembered the words of Garga Muni, who had foretold by dint of his vast knowledge of the Vedas and astrology that this boy would be attacked by many demons. Now they were actually seeing that this was coming true, word for word. In fact, Gargacharya is one such personality amongst many who is Trikalagya, who can see past, present, and future. Trikalagya. Tri means three, and Kala means time, and Gya means knowledge. Gyani. He who has knowledge of past, present, future is Trikalagya. So when Krishna and Balaram had appeared, he had made certain amount of predictions, which were all coming true. Ayam Hirohini Putro Dramayan Surida Gunai Akyasyate Bala iti Baladikyad Balam Vidu Yadunama Pritak Bhavad Shankarshana Ushantapi. He had named Balaram and given Balaram three names: Bala, Rama, and Sankarshan. Bala because of his strength, Rama because he was very attractive, and Akarshan because, or Sankarshan, Samyak Rupena Akarshati, he who attracted both the families, the family of Nanda Maharaj and the family of Vasudeva Maharaj, because traditionally the grandfather for both of them was Devamida, was one and the same, and eventually the families got separated. But by the presence of Balaram, both these families came together. They were again attracted. So Akarshan, Sankarshan, he who completely attracted and united both families together. And likewise for Krishna also. He had made a lot of predictions that this is what Krishna is going to do in the future. Another example of someone who's Trikalagya, who can see past, present, and future, are the Braja Gopis. In the Gopi Geet, we find that the Gopis are chanting, Bisha Jalapyayat Byalarakshasat Barashamaruthat Vaidyotanalaat Rishamayatmajat Vishvato Bhayat Rishabate Vayam Rakshita Moho. They say that, my dear Krishna, you are such a wonderful personality. Visha Jala Peyad Byala Rakshasad, when there was complete forest, when there was Visha, when there was poison, you protected us from Kaliya. When there was forest fire, you protected us from the forest fire demon. Visha Jalapyad Byala Rakshasad, when Byala Rakshasa, that is Aghasur, Mahavyal, when he came, Krishna, you protected us from even him. Varasha Maruthad, when Varsha rain, that is Govardhan Lila, you protected us from Indra. Vaidyutanala, the Anala, you protected us from fire. And then they say, my dear Krishna, you protected us from Arishtasur. If we, Vishwanath Chakravarti in his commentary writes, Gopi Geet is Canto 10, chapter 31. Arishtasur is Canto 10, chapter 36. So how is it that the gopis are saying that Krishna, you killed Arishtasur, when in reality Arishtasur has not even come to Vrindavan? Because Gopi Geet is chapter 31. 35 is Yugal Geet. 36 is Arishtasur. Arishtasur has not even come to Vrindavan, and gopis in Gopi Geet are saying, Krishna, you protected us by killing Arishtasur. So there Vishwanath Chakravarti brings this point and says that gopis are also Trikalagya. They can see past, present, and future. And at that time, they remembered what Gargacharya said, that this boy in the future is going to kill so-and-so demons. So the gopis there are remembering the statements of Gargacharya. All the cowherd men, including Nanda Maharaj, used to talk of the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna and Balaram. And they were always so much absorbed in those talks that they forgot the threefold miseries of their material existence. This is the effect of Krishna consciousness. What was enjoyed 5,000 years ago by Nanda Maharaj can still be enjoyed by Krishna conscious persons simply by talking about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and his associates. Balaram and Krishna enjoyed the childhood pastimes, imitating Lord Ramchandra's monkeys, who constructed the bridge over the ocean, and Hanuman, who jumped over the water to Ceylon, which is the present day Sri Lanka. They used to imitate such pastimes among their friends and so happily pass their childhood life. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 11th chapter of Krishna, killing the demons Vatsasur and Bakasur. We see how Prabhupada is making the point that what was enjoyed 5,000 years ago by Nanda Maharaj can still be enjoyed by Krishna conscious persons simply by talking about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and his associates. Those who are fully Krishna conscious, it is always seen that they're always blissful. Obstacles are there in their life also. Problems are there in their life also, but it is always seen that they're very blissful. Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Mrigari the hunter, Vyasadev, everyone had obstacles, but because they were Krishna conscious, they were happy, they were blissful. And as Prabhupada is explaining, what 5,000 years back it was experienced can still be experienced for those who are genuinely Krishna conscious in nature. And in our Krishna conscious movement also we find in ISKCON, there are so many such wonderful personalities who have lived in the past and have showed this process and have exemplified from their life as to how sweet this process of Krishna consciousness is. There are modern day personalities, and there are also personalities who lived in the past, who have blessed Mother Earth with their presence, not just in our movement, but so many outside of our movement also. One such personality that comes to my mind, very, very dear disciple of Gopal Krishna Maharaj, goes by the name Murali Mohan Prabhu. Often very less spoken about, but a very glorious person in our ISKCON who tasted the sweetness of Krishna consciousness at a very, very young age. Murali Mohan Prabhu, if he has to be described in one sentence, is someone who is very gentle, very sensitive, very caring, but very, very determined. An epitome of Ananyas Chintayantamam, someone who's one-pointed, determined to get Radha and Krishna. And he personally had three aspects to his life, or three adjectives, so to say. One is his private bhajan, where he demonstrated extreme detachment and extreme determination and extreme surrender. First is his private bhajan. Second is his pravachan, what he would speak. Preaching is the belching of one's bhajan. The bhajan that one does is what comes out in the form of preaching. Preaching is not something that for a 1 hour class, we just study something and then we speak. Yes, that is preaching on one level, but the highest form of preaching is there is so much Krishna consciousness that is overflowing that you can't hold it, but it's just coming out from your mouth. So preaching is the belching of your bhajan. Just like whatever you eat is what you belch. Likewise, whatever Krishna consciousness is there inside is going to come outside as your belching. So preaching is the belching of your bhajan. So his private bhajan was so deep that he would also give it out in the form of pravachan, where he would demonstrate the mood of care, of compassion, and so many such qualities. Just like Shastra explains, the mood of a Brajvasi is para upakar and para dukkha dukhi. He will do good to others and he will feel sad when others are sad, and he's happy when others are happy. But the third and the most important aspect of Murali Mohan Prabhu's life is his deity worship. His life's center and life's everything was deity worship. He would go the distance to make his deities happy. Very, very determined in deity worship. And often you don't find many youth, at least in the present day, who are into deity worship. So often we find youth who are into kirtan and very attracted with kirtan. But seldom do we find youth who are mad in deity worship. And Murali Mohan Prabhu was one such personality. And someone in the modern day, two legends of deity worship. One is Ayendra Prabhu. Of course, one is Jananivas Prabhu. But someone who comes in the next generation who would dress deities and would be very, very out of the box was Murali Mohan Prabhu. Just like for devotees who have heard about Ayendra Prabhu will know how out of the box he was in deity worship. Oftentimes, he would be even chastised by the authorities because he would take the flute from Krishna's hand and he would keep the flute in Radharani's hand, and he would say, well, don't you know that it's Radharani who taught Krishna to play the flute? The pastime of Vamshi Chorini Sri Radha, that Srimati Radharani who stole the flute of Krishna. So Ayendra Prabhu would dress that way, and sometimes the GBC and the authorities would just chastise him, but he was someone who would dress Radha and Krishna based on his bhav. Ayendra Prabhu would often say that when I dress Shyamasundar, I dress Shyam with this mood that how will Radharani want to see Shyam today? And when I dress Radharani, I dress with the mood that how will Shyam want to see Radharani today? And with that meditation, I dress both of them. So someone who dressed out of the box, apart from Ayendra Prabhu and Shripa Jananivas Prabhu, is Murali Mohan Prabhu. Very unconventional and very dressing from one's heart, dressing Radha and Krishna from one's heart. And he, throughout his life, he joined the movement in Radha Rasbihari Mandir in Juhu Temple. That's where he met the devotees when he was still a bachelor, still doing his education. He met the devotees there, got in touch with the youth devotees. Later went on to become a devotee, and then when in his trips to Vrindavan, he would take bath during Baulashmi, take bath in Radha Kund, take part in different festivals. And he was very dear to many of Prabhupada's disciples, like Srila Radhanath Maharaj, and His Holiness Mahanidhi Swami Maharaj, and so many others. And every time he would go to Vrindavan, somehow he had this aura that devotees liked him. And in his presence, devotees would be nourished and inspired to do deity worship. You see, many times you come across different devotees, and the mood that the devotee carries when you're in their presence, you're so electrocuted. The mood permeates in thin air, and then you're also having the desire to do the same anga of bhakti that devotee is doing. If you're in contact with someone who's very sold out to Harinam, you naturally want to pick up your beads and chant. And likewise, if you're there with someone who is into book distribution, you also want to do book distribution, and so on and so forth. And Murali Mohan Prabhu was one such personality. Those who were there around him, those who would meet him, would be naturally inspired to have deities at their place and worship deities. So in his visits to Vrindavan, he would have Krishna, black Krishna, Shyamasundar, Ghanashyam, Mega Jaladhara Shyam, Rasaraj Shri Krishna, and blackish Krishna. And he was like Shyam Gopal. He was Shyam Varna, black in complexion. And every time he would come to Vrindavan, he would show photographs to His Holiness Mahanidhi Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada disciple, and he would show these photographs, and devotees would be very much impressed by his very, very unique style of dressing. So one time when he showed these photos to Mahanidhi Maharaj said, Murali, do you know what? Your Krishna is not happy. And this was like a thunderbolt to Murali Mohan Prabhu. What? I am dressing him so much, and why is my Krishna not happy? And Mahanidhi Maharaj said, well, your Krishna is not happy because he does not have Radharani with him. You're just worshipping Krishna, but there's no Radharani. And our Gaudiya philosophy is to have Radha and Krishna together. We never worship Krishna alone. We are not that sampradaya that promotes the worship of Krishna just alone. So Murali, it's great. What you're dressing is good, but there's no Radha. And without Sri Radha, your Sham cannot be happy. So you should have Srimati Radharani next to your Krishna. So Murali Mohan Prabhu, he said, well, we don't come from a very financially aristocratic. Our family is not very aristocratic where we have the money to buy Srimati Radharani. So what should I do? And Mahanidhi Maharaj, he told Murali Mohan Prabhu that, well, it's up to you. If you really like your Krishna, then you should do what he likes. And he likes Srimati Radharani. So if you are really Pujari, that was his nickname, Pujari. Whenever people would call him Pujari, he would just turn back. He was so much into deity worship. His life's aim, life's center, life's focus was Radha and Krishna, worshipping Radha and Krishna. But at this point, there was no Radha, there was just Krishna. So when Mahanidhi Maharaj told him this, that, well, you should get Radharani, and he did not have money. So he decided to go from door to door, knocking each door and showing them photographs of his Krishna, of his Sham, that this is how my Krishna looks. If you're inspired, can you just help me get Srimati Radharani for him? Because he's incomplete. And many places, they would open doors, but they would not be inspired. In many places, they would not even open doors. Just like Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur would go house to house begging. Bhaja Gaurango, Kaha Gaurango, Leha Gaurangero Namore. Jai Jana Gaurango Bhaje Se hoy amar Pran re Bhaja Gaurango Kaha Gaurango Leha Gaurangero Namare. Bhaja Gauranga, Kaha Gauranga, Leha Gaurangero Namare. Speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wherever you go, just give Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to others. Those who do that, they become my life and soul, Nityananda Prabhu says. So he and Haridas Thakur would do door to door. And Murali Mohan Prabhu here was knocking door to door and showing his Krishna and trying to inspire people that if you can give some dakshina, then I can get Radharani for him. And mind you, dear devotees, he was not a 50, 60-year-old when he was doing this. He was just in his early 20s, a youth, early 20s. That's why I was saying you don't find youth in the modern day who are so mad behind deity worship and so sincere and practicing for your devotional service. He would go door to door and knock that if my Krishna is unhappy and if he does not have Radha, it is my duty to give Sri Radha in his life. And then he went from place to place to place to place to place. And finally, he came to his school where he had studied. And in his school, when he showed photographs to different teachers, one of those teachers who had taught Murali Mohan Prabhu when he was young was so inspired by the Krishna photo that he picked up his check and wrote a check for 5,000 rupees. And with that 5,000 rupees, Srimati Radharani appeared in the life of Murali Mohan Prabhu. Srimati Radharani came in his life at the age of early 20s, going house to house in Mumbai. You're not even talking about America. In America, it's still maybe kind of okay. But to do it in India, youth in India, no, it's not. It's not as easy as it sounds. You would go from house to house and very absorbed in deity worship. So much so that when Radha and Krishna came, the deities were named Radha Madan Mohan. Shri Radha Madan Mohan. And these deities are our life. Sri Radha Saha Shri Madan Mohan, Sri Radha Saha Shri Govinda Charan, Sri Radha Saha Shri Gopinath, 18 Thakur hoy Gaudiyara Nath, Kaviraj Goswami says. Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, and Gopinath. Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan Tattva. Sambandha is Radha Madan Mohan, Abhideya is Radha Govinda, and Prayojan, Prem Prayojan is Radha Gopinath ji. So he had Radha Madan Mohan deities, and when these photographs were shown to people, people would almost think they are like temple deities, as beautiful as temple deities, and they were huge, like the way you have Radha Rasbir in Mumbai, or any temple deities like Radha Sham Sudar in Vrindavan. His home deities were as big. I remember when I was small, one devotee from Radha Gopinath temple, Chaupati, had told us that whenever we show deities, the size of the deities, we should never show it this way. Because when you show it this way, it's kind of, you're limiting them. But Krishna has no end. He has no start, no end. So he had said that one of the senior counselors in Radha Gopinath had told him that when you show the size of the deities, it should be shown this way, where Krishna has no start and he has no end, rather than limiting him. Of course, these are nuances. Every devotee has different way of seeing Krishna and understanding Krishna. So somehow Radharani came in his life, and because the house was not very big, he would stay in Bandra. For those devotees from Mumbai, he would stay in Bandra. So the deities occupied the dining room, and he would sit down in the one of those rooms which was his left out, and he would sit down and eat. But the whole dining room had become the place for Radha Madan Mohan, and he would go the distance. He would just, whatever was possible, whatever would please Radha Madan Mohan, he would do that. In fact, Srila Radhanath Maharaj had even said that those devotees during Janmashtami who cannot take darshan of Radha Gopinath, if they come and take darshan of Murali Mohan Prabhu's deities, they will get the same benefit. Not just that, Radhanath Maharaj with Gauranga Prabhu and Govinda Prabhu would come at night and take darshan of Murali Mohan Prabhu's Radha Madan Mohan deities. Very, very fond of deity worship. One time, he wanted to offer some very rare flowers that are not found in India, but are found in Switzerland. And he asked his father for money so that those flowers can be imported from there. And the cost of that was almost more than 10,000 rupees. And when his father heard that, he said, well, doesn't make much sense. What are flowers you get in India? You can just offer that, but doesn't make sense to import flowers from Switzerland. So his father did not give him, like any normal father would think twice. 10,000-15,000 rupees is not a small amount. So in fact, all this was when he was not even initiated. His initiation happened later. Gopal Krishna Maharaj later gave him the name Murali Mohan. And it's so interesting, his deities were Madan Mohan, and Maharaj gave him the name Murali Mohan. So he wanted these rare flowers and he would not get them. And as he left his home, in the steps of his building, he saw a bundle, and that bundle had 10,000 rupees in notes. Dear devotees, this is a real story. I heard it from a Prabhupada disciple. He saw a bundle of 10,000 rupee notes, and with that money, he bought flowers and imported them from one of the European countries so that his Radha Madan Mohan can be dressed in a most opulent way. The first flower dress in ISKCON, we see many times Radha and Krishna offered flower dress. The first ever flower dress in our ISKCON movement was offered by Murali Mohan Prabhu. It was his master stroke. It was his idea of offering a flower dress. And now we see so many temples are offering flower dress, but the original credit of that goes to Murali Mohan Prabhu. It was his supremely genius idea that he had presented. And so many other wonderful pastimes of his we find as far as deity worship is concerned. Deity worship is a public expression of one's private bhajan. The private bhajan, the bhajan that we cultivate, is shown outside. It's a public deity worship is a public demonstration of one's private bhajan. The mood, the bhav that we cultivate in our heart is the mood that we will have while dressing deities, and that mood is reflected for the public, for the audience. So deity worship is a public expression of one's private bhajan. And so much more we can Talk about this wonderful devotee. Very, very rare we find a youth so inspired in deity worship. And so many Prabhupada disciples would come to his place and take darshan of his very wonderful deities. In fact, one time during Radhashtami festival in Radharas Beer in Mumbai, he was scheduled to come and dress Radharani, Radha and Krishna. And it was 7:15 is the darshanarthi time, and it's almost 6:45 and Murali Mohan Prabhu is not to be seen. And dear devotees, he's only 25, 26 at this time, like not 50, 60-year-old. We are talking about youth. And it's 6:45ish and he's not to be seen. And it's Radhashtami festival. Devotees are waiting and he's not there anywhere. And somehow, another 5-7 minutes, he comes. And in less than 20 minutes, Murali Mohan Prabhu with his team, they dress up Radha Rasbihari, Gauranitai, and Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. And that was the time when he offered the flower dress to Radha and Krishna. So we see that there's so many angas in Krishna consciousness, whether it's Nam Sankirtan, whether it's Bhagavat Shravan, whether it's Sri Dham, Dham Seva, or Dham Vas, so on and so forth. But seldom do we find a youth so interested and so fascinated with deities. And deities, Sripad Mukundata Prabhu says that one should always have deities, because it's only through deities can one have a personal reciprocation with the Lord. Because having a reciprocation through Harinam, for that one has to be very, very advanced. But the reciprocation first starts through deity worship. And eventually we can realize that that same Madan Mohan, that same Gopinath, that same Govinda, that same Gaurnita is not different from a Harinam. It starts with deities and then it translates to our Sri Harinam Prabhu chanting. It's very sad and very unfortunate that some devotees may have heard and may be knowing that in 2012 there was a Radha Gopinath Yatra that went to Nepal. And Murali Mohan Prabhu and his brother were also there. His brother's name was Rakesh. And Murali Mohan Prabhu was Gopal Krishna Maharaj's disciple. Both were devotees. And there were few brahmacharis also. And there were some grahasthas. About 20-ish devotees were there, and they were on a flight, a small flight to Nepal, to Muktinath. And this was the year of 2012. And for those devotees who remember, there was a famous, very unfortunate event that happened. There was a plane crash, and it was all over newspapers. And sadly, that whole flight had our devotees in it. And sadly, no one survived. So even Murali Mohan Prabhu, along with his brother, they were only, during the plane crash, May of 2012, they were only in their late 20s. So very unfortunate and a very, very sudden departure for someone who, in a very, very short span, made rapid advancement and was known in ISKCON community for his tremendous attachment to worshipping Radha and Krishna. These are the personalities from whom we take inspiration. Even though they were young, they showed tremendous advancement, whether it's Murali Mohan Prabhu on one side, whether it is Braja Leela Mataji, Indradumna Maharaj's disciple, about whom Maharaj himself has written a book, or whether it is Braja Vallabi from Australia, again Indradumna Maharaj's disciple. And so many other youth or young disciples we have seen in the movement who lived only in their mid-20s or late 20s, but have made substantial contribution and have shown tremendous advancement in Krishna consciousness, which almost solidifies this point and should convince our heart that age has nothing to do. Just like Prahlad and Dhruva and so many others made rapid advancement, in our movement also we have had personalities who are young and have showed tremendous advancement and tremendous taste to this process, whether it is Braja Leela on one side, whether it's Braja Vallabi as far as Vrindavan attachment is concerned, or Radharaman attachment is concerned, whether it's Murali Mohan Prabhu as far as Radha Madan Mohan attachment is concerned, and so many other devotees like this. So if we are young, we have to buckle up and we have to take inspiration that so many such personalities have lived in the past, who have lived their life to serve as an inspiration for me, so that we with utmost sincerity can practice this path and also hope to inspire another generation of youth and also adult devotees. In this way, because the chapter ended and I was just inspired to speak about Murali Mohan Prabhu because he is very less known in our ISKCON. Ideally, he's someone who should be glorified most often, but is very, very less known. But nonetheless, we take this moment to appreciate the devotees who have in some way or the other contributed to Prabhupada's movement and also bolstered the faith of so many devotees in and around the world. Having said this, I very humbly want to stop here. His Grace Murali Mohan Prabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Govind Dev ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ji ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Prem